everybody, and welcome back to my diet journey from a biblical perspective. I know I missed last week, but you know what? Life happens, and we roll with the punches, and we are back on track, and we are on part 4, and today it is what is the ideal diet. Now, for those that have followed this mini series, we know that God definitely has an ideal diet, and that started off obviously in Eden. And Eden was where Adam and Eve ended up eating mainly a fruitarian diet. And then when you see the fall, they ended up eating a vegetarian diet. And after the flood, there was the introduction of or the permissive diet, which was incorporating the consumption of meat, and that was due to the fact that there was no vegetation on earth after the flood. So that made sense. Now, could we find anywhere in scripture where we see vegetarian plant-based diet? And the answer is yes. And we can find that in Daniel chapter 1. And we see that when the Hebrew boys were taken out of their land in Jerusalem, they were brought to Babylon. And these were the young princes of the Hebrew nation, and they were to be trained as advisors to the king in many different areas and subjects. And as they were being trained, Daniel decided, along with his friends, that they are not going to eat the king's meat. Now, this would be kind of a slap to the face of the king, because he is basically offering the best of what he feels he's offering to these captured young men. However, it didn't matter to Daniel. He decided to present his experiment to the king's eunuch and the supervisor, basically, of all of these captured men. And he ends up saying, hey, I have a 10-day experiment that we want to eat basically a vegetarian diet, and check us out in 10 days. If you see us looking worse than the other people who are eating the king's meat, then we'll switch. Well, here we had our control group, which would be those that ate the king's meat, and then we have our experimental group, the ones who ate basically the vegetarian diet, which was Daniel and the 3 other Hebrew boys. And this was an amazing thing, because we have the testament given in Daniel chapter 1 verse 15. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. And if you continue reading on, it actually says that the king tests them in all of their subjects and discovers that they were wiser than any of the other men in their, quote, schooling. So this was a very encouraging thing, and for anyone who's actually seen the Daniel diet and what they ate, it was very much a vegetarian diet, or vegan. Okay, and so after, beyond the Bible, we sometimes wonder, well, are there any other, historical proofs to show that vegan diet, it was one that people, I guess, promoted and or knew to be healthy? And I would point to the gladiators of Rome. And the reason why is because we know and have heard gladiators as being these strong men who are super buff and were used basically for entertainment in the arena. And so when you end up hearing about them, sometimes we might have this idea that, oh, they ate lots of protein, or they were like these big, huge, muscular guys. But in fact, the word gladiator actually means barley men. And there was a study done by 2 universities, one in Switzerland called the University of Bern, and another one in Austria, which is called the Medical University of Vienna. And both of these universities ended up testing the bones of gladiators and discovered that they mainly ate a vegetarian diet and hardly any meat. And so it goes to show that even at that time, they were well aware of the benefits of, I believe, a vegetarian diet. And even further back in the Greek era, we see that philosophers actually promoted vegan vegetarianism. And the first person that we really see is Pythagoras, and his movement towards vegetarianism and his philosophies towards it was actually adopted by other philosophers after him, like Ovid and Seneca. And some people have actually believed that Socrates might have been also a vegetarian based on some of the arguments he made regarding like animal cruelty. And a good quote that people have used is this one: if we pursue our habit of eating animals, and if our neighbor follows a similar path, will we not have need to go to war against our neighbor to secure greater pasturage, because ours will not be enough to sustain us, and our neighbor will have a similar need to wage war on us for the same reason? That was his argument. And so some people have said, well, hey, he's got a point there. And even after, the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire has passed, we also see that even in the United States, there was literature circulating as early as the 1890s promoting health and nutrition. And in one of the books that it's called Healthful Living, it was published in 1897, and in chapter 7 it demonstrated the understanding of the importance of temperance, appetite, and exercise. And here's a quote from it. It says, "Any course of action in eating, drinking, or dressing that is unhealthful injures the fine works of the human machinery and interferes with God's order. Obstructions are created in bone, brain, and muscle, which destroy this wonderful machinery that God has organized to be kept in order. Any misuse of the delicate workmanship results in suffering." Another quote: "Neglecting to exercise the entire body or a portion of it will bring on morbid conditions. Inaction of any of the organs of the body will be followed by a decrease in size and strength of the muscles, and will cause the blood to flow sluggishly through the blood vessels." And this was written well before we had microscopes to actually testify to this point that yes, sedentary lifestyles definitely make you very tired and also contribute to comorbidities, I would say. So it was just very fascinating. And we know that even in the most recent years, we have seen an explosion of vegetarian or veganism around the world. And a good example was my personal experience when I lived in Korea in 2009, when there wasn't even a term for veganism or vegetarianism in the country. I literally had to say 나는 채식주의자, which is I eat vegetables, because there was no word for vegan. Vegan was not even a term that was even well known in their vocabulary. It was not part of the vernacular. But now you go to Korea and you say, "Oh, vegan," and majority of people know what a vegan is. They don't, So it's just interesting because by the time I left in 2017, veganism had increased 300%. So that goes to show a lot of people are well aware of the, I would say, ideal diet. But with all this information, it is still a choice. And I do believe that God does have his ideal diet, and it will be what was provided in Eden. Because as we know, God started everything out in Eden, and then at the end of scripture we have him back in Eden. So pretty much I think, we're all just gonna end up being pretty much vegetarians. according to scripture. So I don't see us eating any animals, not at least not from what I could see. But as of living on this earth, we still have a choice, and I think that the important thing is you are doing what's best for your health, and that you are educating yourself on what your body is capable of handling, and that we are not judging each other harshly based on what one eats or doesn't eat. And that segues right into our next video, which is stop judging and start encouraging. Well, with that said, guys, may you live, thrive, and be healthy, and I will see you guys on my next video. Take care.